Hello there, good evening and welcome. This is ABUJA Dispatch, a platform specially created to bring to your living rooms those events, issues, and indeed those characters that we believe that are shaping the entire landscape of the federal capital city, ABUJA, in the outgoing week. Adegboye Garogbodo is my name. Let's start off with those stories that made up our headline news in the outgoing week.
The National Security Council has called for continued collaboration between security agencies and all Nigerians towards addressing the rising security threat in the country. This was the outcome of the first council meeting of the year, presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari in Abuja. The National Security Advisor describes the challenge as multidimensional that now requires a multifaceted approach. He says government is evolving new strategies to deal with the threats. The leadership of the National Assembly has met with President Muhammadu Buhari over the rising insecurity challenges in the country. The meeting between President Buhari, the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, and the Speaker of House of Representatives, Femi Gbagyabiamila, looked at possible roadmaps for securing the lives of Nigerians. After the meeting, the Senate President said government was exploring every possible option towards addressing the situation, including the use of technology for effective and efficient control.
The Chinese government has expressed readiness to working with other countries to actively respond to the coronavirus epidemic. Speaking in Abuja, Chinese ambassador to Nigeria, Zhou Pingyan, restated faith in the ongoing operations carried out by the country to control the outbreak of the virus. He called on other countries to adopt a responsible attitude and work together with the Chinese government to combat the virus, stating that there is no reason for measures that unnecessarily interfere with international travel and trade. He also added that countries should avoid overreaction, which may result in more negative spillover effects. The federal government has officially launched the new Nigeria Visa Policy (N.2020). The new visa policy is a sequel to Nigeria's signing of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, a treaty which seeks to establish a continent-wide marketplace with a high volume of trade and free movement among its major economic powers. Basically, its objectives is to strengthen Nigeria's position as a key economy in Africa by attracting more foreign direct investment, providing jobs for the people, and lifting Nigeria's growing population out of poverty in line with the vision and promise made by President Muhammadu Buhari. Some of the features of the NVP 2020 include visa on arrival for African Union nationals, increase in classes of visas from 6 to 79, categories for all classes of visa, and introduction of e-visas to boost economic activities.
Welcome back. The two houses of the National Assembly resumed plenaries a week ago, and immediately the security challenges bedeviling the nation resonated loudly during their first plenary sessions. Some of the federal parliamentarians' postulations were quite germane, objective, and very reasonable, while some were far-reaching. This is re-echoed tonight in our next segment, Dateline. Stay with us.
In their characteristic manner, at the resumption of a new fiscal year, the two arms of the National Assembly have reeled out their legislative agenda as 2020 legislative activities resume. In an address delivered by the President of the Senate, Senator Ahmed Lawan, at the resumption of the Senate plenary on the 28th of January 2020, he said the National Assembly will follow thoroughly the implementation of the 2020 budget for the 12 calendar months. The parliamentarians agreed that the oversight by the National Assembly is as important and critical as the passing of the budget itself. The committees of the two arms of government will need to carry out vigorous oversight on those ministries, departments and agencies under their jurisdiction. This is with a view to ensuring the budget is implemented fully with efficiency and economic value for money. It is expected that the MDAs would cooperate and be forthcoming with necessary information whenever such are requested.
My distinguished colleagues, revenue generation, collection and remittance are important, indeed critical determinant and success factors in the implementation of the budget 2020. The Senate will engage with the relevant revenue generating agencies on a quarterly basis with a view to supporting them to achieve optimum performance in discharging their mandates. I'm confident that the amendments effected on the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract Act and the Finance Bill will bring additional revenues for the government.
The Senate is targeting to dwell on electoral processes and procedures in order to address the challenges observed in the 2019 general elections and the various rerun and by-elections. It is a fact that free, fair and credible elections work as tonic to democracy, as voters will continue to have faith and trust in the efficacy of their votes. Like the last 6 months, the Senate has assured that the first 6 months of 2020 will be a busy and engaging period to address the challenges facing the oil and gas sector, as well as the electoral process. The National Assembly needs to start work on the Petroleum Industry Bill, PIB, immediately, with the understanding that the previous attempts in the 6th, 7th and 8th Assembly sessions to pass the bills failed. And from the lower green chamber, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, also reeled out some of the House achievements since inauguration and its expectations as the year unfolds. Among the greatest achievements since inauguration, Gbajabiamila lauded the House's efforts in the speedy passage of the Finance Act and the 2020 Appropriation Act in particular. He pledged commitment in the passage of the Petroleum Industry Bill and the Electoral Act Amendment Bill this year, among other expectations.
In this new year, this House will further take all necessary actions to pass into law the Petroleum Industry Bill and to implement the much-needed and long-delayed reforms of the sector. It is an unavoidable truth that the oil and gas industry is integral to the economic life of Nigeria. Achieving efficient operation in this sector is therefore a matter of national survival. We cannot allow these much-needed and too long-delayed reforms to continue to be hostage to the privileged interests of a few or the myopic considerations of those whose interests are served by the status quo.
The Green Chamber is poised also to critically look into the report by the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, where it is estimated that about 10.5 million children in the country aged between 5 and 14 are not in school. Expressing worry over the spread of novel coronavirus in the international community and Lassa fever in the country, the Speaker called the public to support the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, to contain the virus by taking basic sanitary precautions. Meanwhile, going by the unfolding security challenges in recent weeks, as noted by the public, the two houses of the federal parliament raised issues on the need for an overhauling of the nation's security architecture, as well as putting in place a well-structured regional policing to assist the Nigeria police force towards tackling the rising cases of killings and kidnapping in the country.
This is a very critical stage of our national life. When our security is threatened almost to the brim, when the nation has never been this divided, our unity, our strength, everything is threatened. And at a time that we can no longer pretend that all is not well.
We've gone this mountain for too long, but we believe that during your time, we can do the right thing. Even a baby, when you have a baby, they don't walk immediately. You teach them how to take baby steps. Some states, I'll use Lagos State for an example, because Lagos is usually like a model state. We have, it's a known fact that we operate community, we call them neighborhood watch. Some people were saying Amotekun. I said we have Amotekun in form of OPC. So Lagos State is replete of security doing details doing different activities. We have security for our traffic that are called LASMA. But I will tell you categorically that we've not abused the use of a federal police presence in the state. Everybody knows what they are supposed to do. Yes, state policing. If we want to go there, they should allow some states who are ready.
If the submission of the federal lawmakers is anything to go by, the other arms of government, particularly the executive, must roll up their sleeves to keep their flanks intact, even as the legislative arm is determined to sustain the existing collaboration towards creating public good for all Nigerians.
Thanks for staying tuned. Despite continued efforts of the nation's armed forces towards combating the space of criminality and all acts of terrorism, cases of killings and banditry are still recorded. While many readily put the blames on the doorsteps of the nation's security architecture, the Nigerian defense prides itself as having recorded much successes, even in the face of denial. The Acting Director of Defense Information, Brigadier General Onyema Nwachukwu, is our guest tonight on Split Views. Join us. Welcome to this segment of our program, Abuja Dispatch, that we call Split Views. And on Split Views this week, we are having the pleasure of welcoming to our studio the Acting Director of Defense Information in person of Brigadier General Onyema Nwachukwu. You're welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure having me.
Now, sir, let me start by, laying the voice of the public in the recent week. There's been this general outcry about the level of security across the country. It's as if we are going back to, maybe there's a kind of degeneration backwards. Is it really so, or what's exactly the situation of the, security across the country now, from your own angle, sir?
Thank you so much. We cannot dismiss with a wave of the hand that there are a number of isolated cases of insecurity, particularly around the Northeast and some other parts of the country. These are emerging security challenges. They are novel challenges to us, to our country. These security challenges are novel to our climate, to our country. And I want to also point out that we need to begin to look at these security challenges from a more global perspective. You will find that there is an increasing employment, or use, if you like, of the instrument of violence by non-state actors to push their agenda, to push their grievances across the globe. It's happening in Yemen. It's happening in Iraq. It's happening in the Philippines. It's happening in Congo. There is an increasing employment of the use of instrument of violence by non-state actors to push their agenda, to address their grievances. No. And this is what we're experiencing in Nigeria today.
Our own portion.
Yes. We are not left out in this global trend. It's sad, it's unfortunate. We are doing all we can, the utmost, as an armed forces, in conjunction with other security agencies, to ensure that we provide safety and security for Nigerians as well as foreigners who are domiciled in our country. In the Northeast, we have troops deployed round the clock under harsh, difficult weather conditions and terrain, fighting terrorism and insurgency. That is why in the Northeast we still have governance in place. That is why in the Northeast we were able to conduct elections. Elections was conducted in Borno State. So aside protecting the people, our people, Nigerians, we're also protecting the institution of democracy. Attempts were made by the insurgents, by terrorists, to stall that, to scuttle the election. But we defended democracy.
All right, sir. Now, let me take you up. Now, we have some operations being embarked upon by the Nigerian Defense. Like we have the Operation Safe Corridors embarked by the, in the Northeast and probably some other parts of the country. How successful are these operations as of now?
Operation Safe Corridor is a non-kinetic kind of operation. It's not a combat operation. It's a humanitarian kind of operation. And the appeal of that operation, the selling point of that operation is that it is a tool. It's a national strategic tool to deplete the ranks and file of the terrorist group. By doing what? By causing a deflection of foot soldiers in the terrorist group to abandon their cause, their struggle, and repent of whatever atrocities they may have been, they must have committed, and join the more responsible and sane society. Now, we need you to understand a fact that the target of that operation is not the leadership of the terrorist group, not those that were recruited ideologically, because it means that those ones have believed in what they are doing. But there are those that I would classify as non-committed, who were either conscripted or forced into these acts of terrorism. These are people that are willing and voluntarily repent, abandon the struggle, and surrender themselves to our troops.
Now, sir, recently there was this move by the federal government to gradually withdraw the soldiers, as it were, from those locations where they were operating. And people are of the belief that probably this is what is even leading to a kind of upsurge, in the killings, particularly in those areas where the military are really, on standby. Now, the way it is, what are the challenges exactly that the military are facing? Why is this still, are we still having some pockets of this violence?
Well, talking about the issue of withdrawing troops, I think I need us to understand the fact that no operation has been shut down as it stands today. And the directive was not to shut down. The directive was to do an assessment, an evaluation. What is the threat situation? What is the threat assessment? It is on the basis of this, of the various operations, that a review will be done. If there is threat, why would you withdraw the troops? So it's not an outright shutdown, as been insinuated in some quarters. When you conduct an operation, you do an evaluation over time. You want to find out what are the shortcomings, what are the threats. Have we been able to address the threats? Have we been able to achieve the mandate of the operation? What is your mission? Have you attained that mission? If we withdraw, what is likely going to happen? What will the situation look like? These are pertinent issues. So it is not out of place to do an evaluation, an assessment, threat analysis, and perhaps decide or make a decision, an informed decision, whether to reinvigorate, to rejig the operation, or to draw down or scale down the operation. So I think it's not, it's in proper perspective. Now, talking about challenges, I'll need you to understand, I keep saying it. Whatever security, whatever safety, whatever peace we're enjoying or savoring today is coming at a cost. It will be uncharitable for us to dismiss all that and say that we have not made progress. We need to understand the exodus, the movement we've made, the progress we've made, where we're coming from, where we are. Yes, we have these nasty situations. I told you they are novel. We have to continue to train and retrain. We have to continue to build capacity. I also like to point out, it's very important, that whatever achievements we have made in the fight against terrorism and insurgency in this country, in the fight against banditry, cattle rustling, militia activities, ethnic and communal rivalry and clashes, is done in the face of denial. In the face of denial. That denial good enough, we've taken advantage of it to become innovative as an armed forces, to become creative as an armed forces, to develop our own weapon systems locally, looking inwards, and moving away from denial, from the face of that denial. We have created our own MRAPs. We have developed our armored personnel carriers. Today, as we speak, in partnership with India, we are creating a long-range IED detection equipment. Looking inwards, we have become creative and innovative in the face of denial.
What are the strategies that, if you will allow us to know, strategies that is being employed to really, go in the direction of this new order of crime waves?
The adversary is not fixated in its tactics. The wiles of the adversary is dynamic and wide. It's divergent. So from time to time, we are equally going to be dynamic in our strategies, in our operational tactics, in countering the maneuvers of the adversary.
Brigadier General Onyema Onywashuku is the Acting Director of Defense Information, Nigerian Defense Headquarters here in Abuja. Thank you for coming to the program, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure.
If you are a citizen of Africa who holds African passport, wherever you are in the world, you can take your bag and come to Abuja airport or any of the 4 airports. You will get a visa at the point of entry. And we have explained that this visa at the point of entry is stronger than the visa you can get at other missions, because we have only 18 biometric issuing centers in the world. So if you come to Abuja, Lagos, or any of these airports, you will get a biometric visa. But in those places, you will not get biometric, you get standard visa. That is 2 categories. The third category of people who can come are people who are frequent business travelers. If you go to our website now for www.immigration.gov.ng, where you see visa on arrival, when you flag up, you will see only one opportunity: African or business traveler. If you are a business traveler, you will apply and upload invitation given to you to come to Nigeria. You pay, you complete a visa form, we look at it online, we approve it and send you a message, email, approval. You see there's approval with barcode. When you come to the airport, you pick your visa.
That is how far we can go tonight on Abuja Dispatch. For further information, comments, and suggestions, you can reach us out on our various social media platforms. It is our hope that you enjoy tonight's episode of Abuja Dispatch. A week from now, we'll bring you another refreshing package. Same time, same station. Adegboyega Arogbodo is my name. Have a good night.